The million dollar question: how do entrepreneurs transition from self-employed to owning a business that turns a profit? My name is Chris Waters, and this podcast has the million dollar answer. Welcome to CEO Secrets. Hey guys, it's your host Chris Waters here of CEO Secrets. Welcome to the show. I interview the 500 fastest privately held companies as ranked by the Inc. 500. Today, I've got Andrew Aman on the show. His company was ranked number 351 in 2021. His percentage growth over a 3-year time period was 1,344%. He is the CEO of 923 Digital Ventures. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. Let's kick things off.
Yeah, why don't you tell the audience what 923 Digital Ventures is?
Sure. So again, like Chris said, my name is Andrew Aman, and I'm the founder and CEO of 923 Digital Ventures. We're a studio, and for the last 10 years, we've built mobile and web apps from concept to growth. And I like to think that clients find us at the time when their product is good and they want to make it great. So we're prepared to, bring together a team and a process behind building these products. And we really focus on being an exceptional partner. And we provide both insights and knowledge of the 40 industries that we've been a part of over the last 10 years. And we bring together our team and those resources to build a product that a client is offering us. But we're a studio because we also have ventures of our own. And we strive to make our clients really, whatever business they're bringing to us or whatever product we're trying to build, we like to think that we want to make them remarkable in their business, something that people are worth talking about.
When you say products, you mean like mobile apps and technology-related applications, possibly online, web-based? Cool. What are there any mobile apps or web apps you can talk about that you guys have developed that are publicly available?
Yeah, so we started the business about 10 years ago, and some of our first biggest clients, the first one was Durell, which is a baby monitor. So we had the opportunity of going from really 0 to 1 with a company that has never launched a mobile app before. And Durell is one of the largest baby providers, like baby product providers in the United States. And one of their divisions, which is called Safety First, focuses primarily on the early stage childhood. And so they were close to us in Boston. We were able to go to their offices, and we do this process of learning through design and foundation. And we spent about a month and a half just going through a process of extracting what they needed out of that mobile application and how that mobile application was going to accelerate their growth as a company. So for the most part, our job was really to be consultant first and a product builder second. But out of that process, what usually comes out of it is we bring consultancy in a way that allows a mobile developer or mobile application to hit the marketplace and achieve its growth that's needed. And so this mobile application, if you think of a baby monitor, on one end is a mother trying to watch their baby, and on the other end is an actual monitor that's sitting above the crib. And so our job as the mobile developers and designers was to create an experience for mothers that allows them to, see their baby when they want to, and also get the notifications necessary at the right time, so that as their baby's waking up and stirring, they can understand what's happening. So our job was to create that experience, and we do that for all of our clients. But that's just one example.
How many downloads has that app had?
That one is probably in the hundreds of thousands. It's sold at Target, and so that product itself had a lot of shelf life, had a lot of product. There's a top 3 baby monitor. It won like a Cribsy Award, so it got a lot of press at the time. But it's about 4 years old, and they're redoing it now. They're trying to create a more intimate relationship between the mother and baby by understanding the heart rate a little better. So they're doing it for a second time again.
Cool. What would you say to somebody listening to this show that's an entrepreneur and let's say they're not in tech?
Yep.
But they want to build some mobile app or web-based app for their business. Like, why would you tell them to go with a agency, for example, a development agency like you guys, versus going on Upwork.com or one of these websites, hiring a project manager, and then the PM is responsible for kind of, building out the scope of work and hiring, the various developers to take the application from, idea to, inception and something usable? What's the perk of going direct through an agency versus trying to hire somebody to do, or, hire like an employee, right? You know what I mean?
So the great way to explain this is really through an analogy. You can hire your dad to build your house, right? He has all the tools probably to build a house for the most part, some hammer and some nails. And he has the concept of how a house is supposed to be built, right? And that's like an Upwork. You're hiring an individual to do a job that it has a massive, kind of architectural plan behind it that needs to be built and designed and conceptualized. When you go to an agency has done that process of building houses many, many times. So with mobile applications, like a login screen is a great way to think about it. Login screens are very repeatable. Every app usually has a login screen. And if you hire someone on Upwork, they might not be their 10th time building a login screen, but they probably have an understanding of how it's supposed to be done, and they might hit some roadblocks as they're doing it. With a venture studio or somebody like us, we've done it for 50 products. We've had the experience. We know the ins and outs of exactly how that should be built, so we can rapidly adjust and create that experience for the end user. Now, more importantly, we also know how to rapidly do that through experience. And just like a construction company, they can build houses faster over time because they know the codes. They know, if I put a bathroom door rotating inwards, it's going to hit the toilet, right? And you learn those over experiences and a lot of mistakes that you have as you're building that house, right? And your team might create those mistakes on the fly. And with Upwork, you're hiring an individual that is probably going to have that same type of roadmap. They're going to build, hit a mistake, fail a little bit. You'll have to fix it, and you'll have to go through this iteration process. But with an agency, we have done that so many times, and our procedures and our processes are very steadfast that those mistakes don't happen as much. So if you're wanting to create an app, going with an agency might cost more upfront than an Upwork developer, but in the long run, you're going to get a more stable app, a reliable app, and something that you can actually bring to another developer that has experience and can be transferable. It's not going to be coded by an individual person that doesn't use procedures. They are just trying to get the app out there to make some money. From an agency, we're working as a partner to really go the long road with you. And so therefore, we need to make sure that we're documenting and informing the client of every decision we're making and making sure that it's fast and repeatable.
I am looking at your website right now, and it is really cool. I like the graphical elements of these various components moving in this picture. That's really cool.
Thank you.
You had mentioned the login screen, how, if you build 50, 10 of those or 50 of them, like you kind of copy and paste that code and save future customers money. So how important is it to find an agency that has worked in your specific industry if the value proposition is they've already built some of the components of, what you need to help save costs and time?
I think this is what separates us from other agencies. There are agencies out there that do repeatable processes and build hundreds, if not thousands of apps per year. And you'll see that that's how they position themselves and advertise who they are. What we bring to the table is myself and my co-founder, Pavel. When we started this company, we have the industry knowledge of how to build a product. Now, with that knowledge of how to build a product, all of our products are in different industries. So, we've done baby monitors, we've done washing machines, we've done products for faith communities. We are working on a video, like a heavy video app right now. We're doing Slack apps. So it expands across all these different industries. And when people come to us, what they're really asking myself and my co-founder is what have you learned in your last 50 products that you can bring to my industry and to my product that can accelerate the growth that we weren't even thinking about? And so for all of our products that we get from a sales call, what we're truly doing at for the first month is building that partnership with the client and explaining to them that myself and my co-founder, we're going to be with you along the ride and explain to you what we have learned of how to build products so that you're not going to make those mistakes. So it's not so much an industry knowledge, it's we understand how the products are built and we understand how customers of all different, $100,000 a year revenue to $1 billion a year revenue, we understand their decisions. And we can bring that industry knowledge to you and say, this is how your product should operate so that you can, skip the mistakes that will commonly happen if you're trying to go with somebody that's, doing it for the first time.
How did you get into this?
So I was a nuclear submarine engineer out of school. I was a civilian, worked on submarines, mostly the hovering pump, which is the pump on the submarine that allows the submarine to stay in one place while it's in the water. And I started being an entrepreneur at that company. I created designs on the side, and I started showing the company different ways that they could do their operations. And so by practicing that method of asking a company to productize some of my ideas, I was seeing whether it would work or not work. And eventually I ended up getting a patent. So the patent was in Bluetooth tracking in manufacturing facilities. We were the first ones to implement that type of tracking system. And through that repeatable process of working for a company and selling them a product idea, I realized that I had the confidence to go off and do it as an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is somebody doing it for a company, and an entrepreneur is doing it for yourself, like doing it on the risk side. And when I met Pavel in 2012, we knew we had the same passion. And so he was an Intel engineer from Israel, and I was a product guy. Like I worked on mechanical parts, but software was all the rage then. Mobile apps was really at the forefront of people transitioning from websites to creating a mobile app. And so we created our first product together, and we built that, from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And that became 923 Digital Studios. And we launched, our first product was acquired in 2016. And so we knew we had this flywheel going, and we really started focusing on just building product after product.
How much did you sell that for?
So that I can't disclose, but it was an acqui-hire. So we did work for that company for 2 years. And then we kept the team that we've worked with on the original product. And that product the product still exists in the marketplace today. We rebuilt it for the company in Canada.
What's been your biggest hit, like financial windfall from selling something?
So the products themselves, we focus on the 1,000 customer rule. So we're not focused on creating a product for acquisition, not just yet at least. We focus on products that have true business models. So the last 3 or 4 products we've launched internally, our goal is to create a team that can function on that product and make $1 of profit, which means we've given people a job, an opportunity in a place that they love working without worrying about losing money.
Cool. Interesting. I was listening to this guy named Chamath. Do you know who Chamath is?
Of course, yeah. I listen to the All In Pod every once in a while.
Yeah. And, he talks a lot about how it seems like there's been so much invested in software and we're kind of behind on the hardware side.
Yeah.
Have you thought about, given your background, pivoting back into the hardware side?
Yeah, what plays really nice with our agency is we're very strong in what's called IoT, the Internet of Things. Some of our largest projects that we've worked on as an agency has been in the IoT space. And as of recent, we're seeing a lot of new leads come from that. We connected about 1,000 washing machines across the United States in one of our projects that was creating the whitest laundry clothes that you could possibly make. We've also connected some fire stations and how they were managing their supply chain of washing their garments after they were doing some firefighting. So IoT is basically taking the hardware and navigating it. And, I've had patents in the Bluetooth space. So I don't necessarily know the expertise of building the Bluetooth devices. Our expertise lies in connecting those devices to the internet and then running a system behind that. So if you think of the washing machine model, there was the 1,000 washing machines on all these different hotels, all connected to the cloud. And our job was to say how much hot water was being used, how much cold water was being used, and how much usage those washing machines were getting, so that the hotel could see what type of efficiency they were getting from the machine they just bought. So I would say we've really converted the concept of hardware and why people come to us. I think because Pavel has a strong engineering background as well, is building those integrated systems in IoT.
Got it. So let me ask you something, a hypothetical situation. So in real estate, realtors put lock boxes on a house, right?
Yep.
And I'm kind of curious, let's say we have quite a few people in the real estate industry that listen to this podcast. Let's say hypothetically you have a mobile app for consumers to download off iTunes and they can search homes for sale. Yep. How hard would it be for the real estate company to I guess when I say hard, I mean, how much would it cost roughly and how long would it take to take that mobile app and it be able to open up a lockbox using that mobile app? And I guess let me add a little more clarity to that. Right now, realtors have a mobile app they get through the board of realtors to open the lockbox. Well, what if, the owner of the real estate company that's representing that listing wants their clients to be able to have their mobile app open up that lockbox. The consumer literally can open up the lockbox versus the realtor opening it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand perfectly. So we've worked with clients in the past that have something similar, but of the public products that I know that are out there, there's a company right now that is focusing on putting boxes on your porch, and that porch would allow individuals to open up the lid to get and retrieve the packages. Yep. So Amazon is thinking about this, obviously, but so are some other companies that are doing some delivery services. And the idea behind the mobile app is that you really have two access points for the mobile app. You have the owner that owns the lockbox, and they can open up that lockbox whenever they choose because they have the app, and they would set up, just like you're setting up like an Alexa or like a Google Home, you would set up this lockbox in the same way so that it can connect to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to communicate with the phone itself. So the owner has an easy way to open up that lockbox. Now, the secondary use case is you have a friend that needs to pick up that package. And in your case, you have a friend that needs to get the key from the lockbox to open up the house, or your client, right? You're renting out the service. And so Airbnb has a model in which allows you to create the lockbox and then unlock it with their app. But you have to give permission to that user. And you can do that through a QR code, or you can do that through a secure message, like an email. And so when that person opens up the app, they gain access to using that lockbox with a code. And so that's one way to do it. The price of these, it depends on who is providing that lockbox and what type of technology does that lockbox have. It's going to have some sort of Bluetooth chip and a battery and a Wi-Fi device to communicate with the phone. So now you got to think, how long is the battery going to last? Is it a year that you're going to be renting out this place? And you have to check in, you have to update the battery. Can you plug it in? Is it possible to plug in, which then allows you to do Wi-Fi? Because if you were just doing Bluetooth, the battery will last a very long time. But if you're starting to transition into some sort of Wi-Fi device that's connected to the router, you probably need to plug it in at least once a week to keep that Wi-Fi chip active. So there are some plays, but there are also some companies that are already thinking about this and trying to execute on not just lockboxes, but packages as well.
So is this something your company could develop and create?
Yeah. It's very similar to something we've done in the past of enabling devices to unlock, a specific code to give that person access to something. The device itself, we would find, I know of a few actually off the top of my head that do exactly what you need to do, which communicate through Bluetooth only. And so we would do it through Bluetooth devices, and the lockbox itself would have an emergency code that you could give access to.
So some of the, various people that listen to this show, small business owners, revenue in the, $1 million to $10 million range.
Yep.
Can you give them an idea of how much you'd have to budget for a project like that?
Yeah, sure. And I think the important thing to know is, of course, you could buy one that's already doing this or somewhat similar, but it's not going to have your name and your logo. I think what we offer as an agency is the ability to brand the product in a way that you want it to exist in the world. And so if you're Century 21 and you want this product, you're not going to be using Joe Schmo's lockbox, right? You want it to say Century 21. And so if they were to come to us and say, this is a product we want to do, we would go through a foundation with them, and then we would deploy developers on it. And it would take about 3 to 5 months of at least figuring out what the MVP is going to be. And without knowing all the details, it could be somewhere between $100,000 and $300,000 of building an application that communicates with a device and has the opportunity to be that MVP. Now, how polished do they want that to be will increase the price, and how much of a rough, concept, idea, prototype do they want it to be will decrease the price. But somewhere in that range of, a few months of work, 3 to 6 months, and some sort of foundation at the beginning, allowing us to understand the problem, will put you in the ballpark, at least north of $100,000 to to get the idea to market.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, as I'm just thinking out loud, there's a lot of people that listen to the show in real estate brokerage, and companies like Open Door and
Yep.
OfferPad, they have consumer enabled lock boxes that can be opened with the OfferPad or Open Door mobile app.
Yes.
And brokerages have not yet had access to a product like that.
Right.
So, for example, they leveraged the Board of Realtors MLS lockbox.
Okay.
And the downside of that is the MLS's Board of Realtors lockbox. You cannot let a consumer access that lockbox.
I see. So you would have to so what would you do from a phone standpoint if the consumer needs to get to that lockbox? You would only have to give it to other realtors, I imagine?
Yeah, so that lockbox that is issued by the Board of Realtors is for appraisers, inspectors, realtors, and all of the participants or the people that can access that lockbox. They have to pay a membership fee to the Board of Realtors to be able to open that lockbox.
I see. Now, this is where custom development comes in, as opposed to something like Open Door. Open Door is actually the company I was thinking of when you had suggested, are there any other companies like this? Because I was pretty sure, but I wasn't positive they had actually released the product yet. Mm-hmm. But when you come to a custom development agency, we would hopefully be able to tap into that market of where the membership is and pull the credentials of the individuals of that membership, of the MLS membership, and therefore only allow certain phones to have access based on that membership plan. And so there would be some administrator that would know these 100 people have access to these 100 buildings. And it's almost like a lock on your computer. You would enable and disable for specific properties. And because that membership exists from MLS, we would tap into that as a custom solution and provide, really the lockbox solution for the end user using that administrator portal that's saying you have access today and not tomorrow, and your timer runs out in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's interesting, I think that Open Door has proven is that, there's not a lot of value for a realtor to open a lockbox.
Yeah.
I mean, the product itself is going to sell itself.
Yeah.
The realtor's value is to help with pricing and in the initial consultation, guiding them in the right direction because they're kind of like a ambassador for the city.
Right. Of course.
And then navigating, the contract itself and the different parties to the transaction and dealing with, inspection related repairs. And so it's just an interesting product idea for the real estate brokerage space because nothing exists for brokers to give to consumers because the MLSs don't allow it.
Right.
So
I see. Yeah, it is interesting. And I think that's where agencies come in. You asked before, where's our positioning in the world? It's so we can provide solutions like that from an MVP, right? You're coming up with a product idea. We need to validate that. We need to go out and see what's possible. We need to tap into some of those systems and see what we have access to. And so we almost need to work as a partnership and say, what permissions can we gain? And then how can we build that product? I mean, this is a great idea. It seems like there's a niche here where there's at least 1,000 customers, right? And I'm sure there's millions of customers, right? But
yeah,
you can at least
2 million licensed agents. Yeah.
There you go. So you already know you have the market, you have the podcast for the soapbox to explain the idea. Now the problem is trying to figure out how that product can come to market and what the price is going to be and things like that. But that's where we assist by building not only our own products but our own startups. We've gone through this process many times.
Where's your staff located? Do you have where are your developers? Are they W-2'd or are they contracted out?
Yeah, so we're based in Boston, and most of our team is in the Ukraine. And we do both W-2s and contracts. It's all up to the person that we're trying to hire. But when we put out a job rec, we're not as focused on what the naming of it's going to be. We want to fit the person that is trying to apply for the job. So we just found a marketing manager in South Africa. We didn't go to the South African market. She just applied to the specific position that we were interested in. And so we're very adaptable. We've been remote since our birth. So in 2012, we've been remote. And we've adapted to this industry of finding the best talent anywhere in the world. And primarily our focus has been on Ukraine because once we started there, we started seeing how great the talent was. And we've grown inside of Ukraine, especially with the relationships we have. But when we put a job rec out, it's more important for us to get the person and the talent than it is to find the consultancy or W-2 challenge.
Do you contract out through an agency in Ukraine, or do you hire people direct to Ukraine?
When we started, we had friends and people that were of other agencies. But as of today, I think almost all of our direct hires they're direct hires. They're not from an agency. So
it's fascinating how, specifically Kiev, Ukraine has so many software development agencies. It's wild. There's so many of them out there.
Yeah, and I think people see that, and it's almost like going on Upwork. It becomes too flooded that if you haven't been in it for a long enough period of time, you don't know what's good and bad because everybody has the same website advertising the same services. And once the market floods, it's tough to distinguish who's great and who's weak. We've been in there long enough, and we have enough people that have come from other agencies that we can talk amongst each other to understand who's valuable and who's not, and which agency is performing and which one's having struggles. And once you understand that, you know who to use as resources, right? And we have friends that are CEOs of other agencies that we can just tap into when we're dealing with issues or needing to find additional talent. But for the most part, if you're coming here blind and you see the hundreds of agencies in Kiev, you think, oh, I'm just going to pick the best one. But you don't necessarily know why they're number one. Maybe they marketed to get there. Maybe they had one good client and everyone else is horrible, right? So it's like shopping. You really got to know what you're after.
And do they pronounce it Kiev or Kiev?
It's both. I don't actually know the official pronunciation. It depends on the accent and how they say it. So
yeah. So and I'm going to say Kiev, Kiev, Ukraine. So I've seen I've talked to various agencies in Kiev, Ukraine, and man, it's so cheap. Like it's 30. They charge $25 to $30 per man hour for a developer, right? Like in the U.S. to hire a U.S. based agency, it's like $150 to $200 per hour. Like that's a big, that's a huge arbitrage there from a markup perspective. How do US based agencies like yours? Well, I don't know. What do you guys charge per hour? Are you in the 150, 200 now?
Yeah. So we're typically about an $80 to $100 blended rate, which means there are some people that are, hourly below that and some people that are hourly above that. And because we're American based, right, we have offices in Boston, we're not at the $150, $200 rate. But the services that you provide is really, it doesn't depend on the dollar rate. Sometimes it depends just on the products you've done in the past and what kind of suits you as an agency. So it's not as important to us to argue about the price. We just like to find the products that work and then double down on those.
What do you think is the big differentiator with someone hiring a US based agency like you guys versus going direct to an agency in Kiev?
Yeah, so the strength again comes down to myself and Pavel. We have been so closely tied to the products that we've built. We are pretty much the product manager and the CTO on every client project we've ever done. And so when a client comes to us, they appreciate the knowledge that we have and the insights that we bring. An American consulting agency has the understanding of American business. And I've found over the years that that's not transferable to other countries without actually working with American businesses or being part of one. We're very fast. Money flows a different way in America than it does in other countries. And I think from an outsider looking in, it's tough to get inspired by how the entrepreneurship world in America works without being a part of it. And I've heard over and over again, especially people that have traveled to like Silicon Valley or Texas to be an entrepreneur and work for a company, they didn't expect the fast pace and how quickly people worked together and collaborated. And so there are some inherent things that we as Americans take for granted that I think we do as business owners and as, selling to other business owners that make it easy for us to do business. If you're coming from another country, not only do you have to learn that, but you also have to adapt to that. So I think selling to a business in America is important, but I also having those resources and talents outside give us views into how, different cultures work and different organizations work in different parts of the world. So I think that's one of the reasons why.
How are you and your business partner managing so much? Like you and Pavel, how do you guys, I think I read you have like 50 different, web products or apps, it's just two of you guys. How are you able to manage so much?
Yeah, I mean, we have 50 people on the team right now. So over time, in 2018, we had about 18 individuals, and now we've grown to 50. And that growth has allowed myself and Pavel to hand off a lot of that we've learned and a lot of tasks that we used to have. I used to be the project manager on every project, and now we have Tanya, who is way better than I was a project manager, right? And Pavel used to be the CTO, and now we have Dennis and Alexander. Like, we have these people that have grown into these roles, allowing myself and Pavel to continue to verticalize and get in new sales while horizontally scaling the team. And so, when a product comes in, we're still the people that talk to the clients. Like, we think that's important. We think that when a client comes to us, they want to talk to myself and Pavel to understand what value we can bring to them and how their product can be built. But by the time the project rolls around, we've created processes that we know if they're abided to, the project will go great, the budget will be on budget, and we'll deliver on time. And we've done so about 97% of the time. So keeping procedures in place and processes that people adhere to allows us to have trust in the team.
Cool. You're kind of, you guys are kind of like home builders, except you're building apps, right? So
yeah.
I think you said that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, very similar.
That's really cool. So I'll just shift gears a little bit on the marketing and lead generation side. I mean, you guys achieved, an enormous amount of growth. So you had to have helped a lot of customers. How did you find those customers? Like, what was the, if you think about from a marketing perspective, like, what's the one thing, if you just did that one thing, it would have been like 80% of your revenue. Like, what's the one thing that is, juicing up revenue and helping you get customers?
Do you want to know like lead sources or like?
Yeah. Lead sources. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're a development agency, there's a website called Clutch, which is like the Yelp for development agencies. So instead of Upwork going on finding the best talent, you can go on clutch.co and find the best agency. So ranking in there is very important for our lead funnel. It's been the primary source of our leads, for the last 4 or 5 years. Outside of that, what we're really trying to focus on this year is being a product studio that is really good at building products. All of our clients are exposed to like real life problems, and they bring those problems to us. And so very repetitively are we like constantly churning out, solutions to problems, solutions to problems, solutions to problems. And we believe that if we can become a well-known product studio that just continues that customers can rely on to solve their problems, we can get a marketing stream through social media and referrals that is just repeatable on itself just through the word of mouth alone.
Got it. All right. I have another product idea and question for you.
I'm ready.
So I'm going to go back to real estate again.
Okay.
In real estate, like, I'll just take a random city in the United States.
Okay.
Okay. I'll take a real life example. So in Austin, Texas,
okay,
there are 400,000 single family homes.
Okay.
And in any given month, on average, only 2,500 people raise their hand as an actual like legit opportunity. They need to sell their house. So tiny percentage, right? Out of the 400,000 single family homes. And so you could go and buy the contact records for all 400,000 single family homes. And what I'm curious about is would you guys be the ones that would do this, or is it somebody else that is interested in figuring out how to create some predictability around that 400,000 contact database, some predictability around specifically who of those people will likely sell?
Yeah.
Likely put their home on the market.
In 2020, we started seeing a lot of profits, and we had an idea of where are we going to put our resources for the next few years, machine learning or VR or crypto. And we went heavy into machine learning. And what you're talking about is a machine learning algorithm that is trying to understand predictability of past events so that you can predict the future events. And so what you would do in a situation like that is you would gather the data and you would put it into a data set where a human can be a part of that loop to inform the machine that's running this analysis. Are they accurately predicting which homes are coming on the market, or are they mistakenly figuring out that those homes not actually for sale? And so this machine learning algorithm would have somebody in the system that understands, that the home's actually available or coming onto the market, pinpointing a yes, no. And so our machine learning algorithm would work with that human over a series of months until we were all confident in the model so that we could then deploy that predictability machine.
So that's something you guys do.
Yeah. So 2020, we really started this machine learning department. It's actually like a funny story. The guys have an office and they all sit together. And they have a camera in their office. They have multiple cameras, but they count like how many times the guys go to the coffee machine, right? And then they have a challenge to see, all right, I got 4 cups of coffee today. Did the camera pick up my 4 cups of coffee? Did they know that I had 4 cups of coffee? And then they got creative because they are in the Ukraine. They would sneak to see who could bring a gun into the office. And so the camera would spot, and if it saw the gun, it would trigger and say, the gun's on the person. And so that camera would then say like, hey, I caught you, right? And it would know that a person had a gun in the office. And I mean, it's open fire. It's a different story there than America. They were doing it as part of their study. But this technology through camera vision allows you to understand kind of what's happening on a scene. And then those algorithms can pinpoint predictability stuff and really know that there's an object and then reliably know if that object is something that you can see.
That kind of ties into my lockbox product idea for consumers to access listings, because Open Door and Zillow, they put cameras inside the house to make sure that the house is under supervision when people are looking at the home unsupervised.
Yep.
So that'd be cool if I mean, think about it. If you have like hundreds of properties with a lockbox consumers can access, you can't have somebody, ideally you don't have somebody manually watching all those cameras to make sure something doesn't get stolen.
Yeah. So we actually worked with a construction company who had the same problem. Whenever they would bring copper onto site, it would get stolen. And so the camera would sit on a building next to the building they were building, and it would watch at a specific time for when somebody looks like suspicious. And it was interesting because throughout the day, there's many people handling and moving copper around or parts around a construction facility. But when somebody's suspicious, they're doing it with a hunched back, with a black hood. And there's all these signs that you can teach the machine that it's not a construction worker. Maybe they have to have a helmet on, and that triggers that it's safe to move the parts. And as soon as you see somebody with hunched over without a helmet on, that's when you trigger the algorithm. And so we worked with this company to create this model of formulating the idea of when is something like kind of fishy going on, so you can notify people to watch. And then up in the big CEO's office, he had a television screen of his sites, and he would be able to monitor those sites. And then there would be flashes. I haven't seen it since, but I imagine there will be flashes that's like, something's happening here. Go talk to the project manager or the general contractor.
That predictability product I talked about a minute ago, is that still in that $100,000 to $300,000 range? Is that kind of like the going rate for an MVP?
That one's a tough one, right? So like that could be a little less because you're experimenting with us. We don't have like a defined, this is the algorithm we're going to use and it's going to solve your problem. You're going to have to work with us, month to month, and it's going to have to be a trial and experiment. So we wouldn't quote out a fixed price on that. We would say, here's the engineers and here's the algorithms that we're going to test, and it'll be a month-to-month contract. And that, that could be $20,000 to $50,000 a month of just building that idea.
There have been some companies come up in the real estate space that are, they have this product, they created it. And the challenge I have seen is the predictability from an accuracy perspective, from a percentage perspective of accuracy, it's not very high.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that a lot of machine learning sales calls we were on is to improve reliability. There's a lot of stuff going on assembly lines where they're 96% reliable. But if you're running 50,000 bottle caps and you got to know which one's deformed, it's very advantageous to you to go from 96% to 99%. So even in that small reliability, they're still hiring agencies like us to improve that efficiency so that they see the return on investment, within the first month. If that's 96 to 99% could be like 1 month of $100,000 of savings, right? Therefore, the product pays for itself.
That's cool, man. There's so many cool ideas on the product side,
Yeah.
You guys could be busy for the next 100 years, 200 years.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere.
I hope so. I mean, we do have a lot of fun. I think that's where, I hope we shine when people call us. We're very interested in building these products and running through these challenges with the clients. And so the more we do that, I think the better we'll be. But I'll tell you, it's hard to find the right client there's always 3 factors. They have to be ready to build, they have to have the money, and they have to have the vision. And so all 3 of those have to align for them to work with us. And sometimes 2 of them work, but they don't have the money, or they don't have the vision, or they don't have the permission sometimes from their boss. So it's sometimes pinnacle where I wish it was easier to get sales, but when we do get them, it's a lot of fun to build.
Well, Andrew, it's been great having you on the show today. Congrats on making the Inc. 5000 list at number 351.
Thank you.
1,344% growth. That's no joke. And for anybody listening, man, y'all's website is really cool. I just like the aesthetics of it. It's really sweet.
Appreciate it.
So anyways, guys, go check out 923.co to learn more about Andrew's custom web and mobile app development company. Again, Andrew, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. And you have to tell me when you're ready to build that product for the lockbox. I think we'll be ready. So thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, iTunes, whatever, Anchor, Stream, whatever you're on, hit that subscribe button. All right. See you guys.
Talk to you later, Chris.